So some of you watching this will already know this guy. He's been posting Fortnite videos for the longest time now. Years, in fact. Recently his channel has clearly blown up, and in fact, if these views don't convince you, his social blade will. This video isn't about Cypher PK though. It's mainly about this specific video right here. We need to talk about Fortnite. As you can see, it's got 2.2 million views in 23 hours, and most likely it's got more than that. YouTube is just slow with its counter. Cypher went over so many things. It's a half-an-hour long video where he goes through pretty much all of the community frustrations. He literally goes through all of it, and I would go check this video out if you haven't already. This isn't about his video either though. This also isn't about the hashtag #RipFortnite hashtag that we saw on Twitter trending a few days ago, and it's also not about hashtag thank you Epic Games, another hashtag that was trending only a day later. No, instead it's actually about a tweet that I've just seen right now coming from Happy Power and iFireMonkey, reading the following. According to the Epic Games website, Season 2 is extended until June 4th. And when we actually go to the Epic Games website, it's real. It's actually very real. And then when we go to the tweets, i.e. the responses, it's not great, but kind of understandable in some ways. Now here's the thing, everything that I've just said that this video isn't about, it's kind of all about all of the things that I've spoken about. See, Fortnite is in a position where, especially on Twitter, also in the YouTube comments, and just generally socially, online at least, there are so many negative connotations on this game right now. It's honestly horrible to see. A lot of players are really hating this game right now. A lot of players are really loving this game right now. Unfortunately, just like customer service, most of the time there are only negative reviews when people have something to say. When people don't have anything to say, it's generally because they had a good enough experience and they don't feel the need to complain. But realistically, is Fortnite dead? No, it's not anywhere close to being dead. Let's make that really clear. Fortnite is not dead right now. Take it from someone who has worked on reporting on games that really did die. This is not a dead game. Is it really not in a great position right now? Yeah, no, it's been in better positions for sure. Now though, a lot of people who are watching this video will probably be fairly eager or competitive or downright decent at this game, and a lot of you will be very upset with this game because of the things that Cypher outlined in the video. At spawn, the server seems kind of laggy now. It used to be laggy only really in the end game, but now it seems to be even when you've landed. And especially if you're a competitive player, a lot of you guys don't seem to like the mythic weapons. And you know what? Understandably, it's not the most competitive of things. It's mainly to spice up the game for players who are just casual at this game generally. And this is the thing, there's a lot of players still who are just casual at Fortnite. Fortnite's also in this weird position because when we look at Twitch, for example, we'll see that Fortnite is not the only game that takes the cake in the top viewership anymore. Now we have games like Grand Theft Auto, surprisingly Call of Duty, and a game that no one even knew was going to exist more than a few months ago, Valorant. And I've seen a lot of people comparing the viewership from these games when Fortnite isn't the top game on Twitch right now. Here's the thing, what a lot of people are failing to realize or look at is the actual numbers behind what we're seeing here. See, Fortnite actually has coming up to 200,000 viewers right now, and normally it's looking at between the 100 and 200k mark. Part of this is because people are currently staying at home a lot, and so they have more time to watch Twitch on the side of doing their work or their whatever they're doing. But part of it is just because there are some actual fans of Fortnite still. In fact, there's a lot of them. And so when these other games come close or beat it for a few hours or whatever it might be in viewership, it's important not to forget that Fortnite's still doing very well there. It's just that gaming is doing well for once. Before, Fortnite was kind of carrying gaming for a year. Realistically, it was. Obviously, we had other games, League of Legends and stuff, and they were doing super well, but Fortnite was taking the cake. Now, moving away from viewership, let's talk about what's actually happening in the game. I just wanted to scrap the Fortnite is dead feeling in the video, and that's why we had a look at Twitch. But again, let's look back at the gameplay. See, I was reporting on Donald Mustard's Twitter tweet long before people started paraphrasing it all over Twitter. In fact, I was reading this tweet when it had like, I don't know, maybe 50 likes, and clearly now we're on 7,000 likes. I don't have access to Donald Mustard's impressions, but I would imagine it's quite a few here. I often think of dramatic pacing like audio volume. With some stories you work to slowly crank it as loud as possible so that when you ratchet it back to 0, you feel the full impact of both extremes. Then when the new volume feels like normal, you start to dial it up again. And to be quite frank and fair to Epic Games, this is kind of how it feels things have gone. Fortnite was in a crazy position where events were happening every day almost. Then they went to a whole new map, and that in itself was probably one of the biggest changes, if not the biggest change Fortnite has ever seen in its life cycle. And then we saw nothing for like 100 days and it got really scary. Now recently though, we have the agency, we have these other POIs, and we're starting to see things come back together again. And to be quite frank, so long as Epic keeps working on what they have been, and they keep churning out updates kind of the way that they have been, we've had a few new items come into the game recently with the crash pads and that, it's at least a step in the right direction, but it's clearly still not everything. Regular updates isn't the only thing people are looking for. In fact, even casuals want some level of competitive integrity, and when the servers aren't feeling right, when some kills don't feel rewarding, and many deaths really don't feel right at all, when you're getting shot through builds, etc., even casual players like myself personally, that's not fun. So realistically, the answer to that is Epic somehow, and I don't understand how this works, so I'm not saying that this is an easy job, I don't know. But what I do know is that this isn't very fun for a lot of players, and when it gets too annoying, at this point now people are starting to play other games alongside Fortnite. And this is something Fortnite did very well in the past. They kept players on their game and only their game pretty much at the time, because Fortnite felt kind of more rewarding in some ways, mainly because it felt like less BS was happening. Fortnite overall is in a tricky position right now. It has an esports scene to cover, and they have not been communicating very well with the pros at all. Unfortunately, the pros are all mostly under 18, a lot of them under 17, 16, 15, etc. And so dealing with a corporate company that is Epic Games, it never ends well. Then what ends up happening is these pros with large followings who are very upset with the game and very upset with Epic Games for not communicating with them, they then go on and influence their followers and their friends that Fortnite is a dying game, when in reality what's actually happening is they're just getting BS'd a lot in esports. Unfortunately, reality doesn't really kick in with a lot of these people. The whole social influence thing pulls in, and then things like the hashtag #RIP Fortnite hashtag ends up becoming an actual thing. Epic Games is in a situation that I've actually personally never seen a game company in before. That might be because I'm too young, I'm 21, and the games industry is a lot older than I am. And I know that many people watching this are going to be younger than me, so you guys really are very young. I'm only just grasping, I think, what Epic Games are trying to do here, and that's way beyond a Fortnite player's experience of the game. Epic Games is so much more than Fortnite. They developed the Unreal Engine, which, funnily enough, one of the most popular games that's actually outdoing Fortnite massively right now in terms of viewership on Twitch. Valorant is run on Epic's Unreal Engine. Again, who knew that? Some of us will, but not many. They make tons of licensing from the Unreal Engine. They took on publishers like Steam with the Epic Game Store with competitive rates for developers. And they've also been buying up softwares and companies like House Party, which is a video conferencing app. Epic Games has clearly diversified. They are not just putting all their eggs into Fortnite. And I don't see companies like Activision Blizzard pulling off the same stuff. When Overwatch or Call of Duty is in a bad way, they're in a bad way. Epic Games is not in a, well, I don't think it's in a bad way right now, mainly because they have roots all over the place. They're not just stuck to their IPs that are public. Not only this, but Fortnite is also being looked at by non-gamers as the closest thing to a potential metaverse, and that in itself is a whole different video topic, but essentially it's building a social network / third place, which for those of you who are just lost saying third place, the definition being in community building, the third place is the social surrounding separating from the two usual social environments of home and the workplace. Examples of the third places would be cafes, churches, clubs, public libraries, parks, etc. It's basically where you hang out in some way, and Fortnite is that. It's kind of like a social club. You can talk to your friends and you can have fun. Sounds kind of similar to a park if you ask me. So what does all of this mean for Fortnite? I've gone through a lot here. All of this stuff is stuff that's been in my head for a long time, which is why it's come off the way it has. But finally, I feel like it's actually come out in the right way. I've actually tried to record multiple videos like this, but finally it's come out in a way that hopefully some people will understand. So what does this all mean for Fortnite? Well, this is one of the reasons why I am so glad and happy and feel good about my situation / decision to cover Fortnite in the first place, because Fortnite has put itself into almost like Minecraft's position right now. Fortnite built the legacy so large where at its peak it was mainstream that it's always going to have a casual audience now, and not just is it always going to have a small casual audience, the casual audience is actually enormous. In fact, many people who watch Fortnite being played don't even play it themselves. They simply find the game entertaining anyway. See, Epic seems to be playing a very long-term game, and I could be totally wrong about that. See, my prediction about 4 months ago was that Epic were going to tune things up quite nicely by now, and things are getting better, but they're not where I expected them potentially to be. My understanding is that Fortnite is going to continue its path the way it is right now, and then when Epic Games is ready, they're going to boost it as they have once before. The thing to bear in mind also is that at a time like this, people aren't at their max productive state, especially when you're working at a corporate company like Epic Games. Quite simply, their workflow, I would imagine, has been impacted enormously, and trying to execute what they've set out to do has probably been affected enormously by that. What does a longer season mean? Honestly, it doesn't look good. I'll be real with you, it doesn't look good. However, when has it ever been the case that you need a new season for new updates and to fix the game? Realistically, normally, especially back in Chapter 1, new seasons were essentially used for one big update and normally an event to transition it. What I am hoping is that Fortnite continues to update the game. They start adding more things that are just casual fun for the community, not the mythic drum gun and the heavy sniper, the stuff that everyone's getting super upset about, but more stuff like the crash pads, more stuff like the impulse grenades, more stuff like the shockwave grenades, more stuff that's actually going to give content creators something to talk about and make fun content with. Nick30 posted a video recently where he had all of his subscribers go into a lobby, build a sky base, and he essentially played games with them. When I saw this, it reminded me of Chapter 1 Fortnite, not gonna lie. I loved the creativity behind it. Some of you will disagree with me on that, but I do have a feel of what I'm talking about. It's about getting creative with limited resources, which is why we need more fun items. Overall, I think the answers are kind of staring Epic directly in the face. I think Epic knows what they need to do, and I think it's a matter of time before they eventually do bring Fortnite back to a stage where it once was. It's going to have to be different. Fortnite is no longer the underdog. In fact, I believe it's pretty much the complete opposite of an underdog now. But I don't believe that Fortnite's success was down to it being an underdog. I think it was down to a lot more. I hope that Epic regains this again. I think they will. That being said, what are your thoughts on Fortnite right now? Are you still playing it a lot? Do you play it a bit? How much do you play it per week? Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Overall, am I worried for Fortnite? Well, I'm not in my happiest state with Fortnite per se, but I'm also not one to say rip Fortnite, because realistically, Fortnite isn't going to die anytime soon. If we're considering that there were 100 days without a single update pretty much, apart from like the harpoon gun back in Season 1 Chapter 2, Fortnite was still pretty much dominating, or at least within the top 3 games really on social media. If that doesn't say a lot, I don't know what does. That being said, long ass video, but needed to get my thoughts out on what's been happening with Fortnite. I haven't made a lot of videos recently, but that's kind of because not a lot is happening right now. Regardless, when stuff like this does happen, I am always still on Fortnite Hub. I'm still looking at everything that's happening with Fortnite, and I'm always pretty much going to be on Fortnite. Because not only do I have loyalty to this game, I don't necessarily even think that loyalty is needed here. The game's still big, end of.